Three friends, one amazing series of YA novels, an insatiable thirst to relive the glory that is K.A. Applegate's literary masterpiece. This is Phantomorphs, the Dork-Bajir Chronicles.
Hello and welcome to the Dork-Bajir Chronicles, a podcast where we read through the Animorph series one book at a time and then talk about it every week. Today, we'll be talking about the Andalite Chronicles Part 3, An Alien Dies. My name is Mikael, the host.
I'm Tessa, the expert.
And I'm Brayden, an overplayed sci-fi trope.
I like how Michaela's been shaking it up with the intro and just like doing an inflection. Just kind of like wherever. It's
Gotta
like
keep it fresh.
really fun.
What a story.
Okay, let's get into it. This was the
Yeah.
best one of the trilogy. Okay, and I'm not just saying that because like all of the setup has been done, and now here's the payoff.
And it does pay off.
It does
pay off, but narratively, it's crammed a little bit too tight, I think. Anyways.
Yeah.
Okay, so when we left off, Elfangor was had pulled in the time matrix into the Jahar.
He was about to. The beginning of this book is when he goes out and gets it.
Oh, okay, whatever. So he gets it. So, surprise. And so Elfangor and Visser 37?
Yep, Visser 37. That's where he is now.
Yeah. And Lauren, the human girl, all touch it at the same time. Because I don't think that's how it's supposed to work. So what ends up happening is all three of them seem to want to go to their own home planets because they get sucked into a vortex of crazy space-time and they get spit out in this world where it's they describe it most vividly maybe with the patches of sky being different colors. So there's the human sky, the Andalite sky, and the Yerk sky. And I think obviously the human sky is blue. The Andalite sky is what, green? I can't remember.
It was green with flashes of lightning all across it.
No, that's the Yerk sky.
Oh, the Andalite sky was
Purple?
I think it was a pleasing purple.
Something like that. Anyways, it's pretty clear that their three wills have created a world that's Earth, Andalite, and Yerk homeworld.
Yeah.
Which is
bleeding together.
It's kind of a pretty awesome premise for anything, I think. It doesn't really play out as much as it probably could have if this was a longer book, but I thought that was really cool. And I remember as a kid thinking it was very cool also. Anyways.
It's pretty cool. Sorry, it's not like they're just different pies, like that one Hunger Games book where there's different lines of the pie that it's just actual patchwork, which is really cool.
And it doesn't seem to have any pattern that we know of yet. So they pretty quickly see that Visser 37 is there. Only this time he's accompanied by, some would argue, the protagonists of the entire Animorph series, Jerix and Larix, which are
the best characters I've literally ever seen in my life.
They don't even have dialogue, but you get every word they're saying.
They're just they're literally biological cars. They're called Mortrons, which I thought, isn't there a D&D thing that's
Modron. They are beings of the plane of the pure law plane.
Yeah, they're the little robot guys that are different shapes. One's a triangle and there's a square and there's a circle that flies. Totally.
So anyways, they fight them, and Elfangor finds out pretty quickly that the Mortrons, the way that they fight is the thing that's on top of the car, the cab, separates from the car part and turns into a giant bat.
Yeah.
And then when he slices the bat in half, obviously, what happens then is that one half forms another bat, while the other half forms a full Mortron. So one that could, on its own, split into two separate parts. basically, like, he realizes, oh, my only, like, organic defense, which is my sword, or sorry, my tail,
Booty dagger.
Booty dagger is, like, literally the worst. Like, slashing damage is the worst for these guys. We need something else. So they run away, essentially, because it's, you know, they can't win that fight.
Yeah.
They eventually find Lauren's house where she used to live, or at least the way she imagined it, because nothing really makes sense geographically. Lauren's mom is in the living room or something like that, and Lauren's like, don't freak out, Mom, this is my friend, an Andalite. And she's like, why would I freak out? Andalites are nice. And it's like, I thought that was pretty cool. It reminded me a lot of Coraline. You guys seen Coraline?
Oh, hell yeah, I have.
The mom who's like really nice, other mother, but she says some shit where it's like, you can't go home. Why would you want to? And it's like, ooh, fuck.
It's like, oh my God.
That's dark.
You're right where you need to be.
Yeah. So anyways, Lauren freaks out, obviously, and runs away. Elfangor takes some time to creep in her room. He goes up to her room. I thought he was going to, like, read through her diary or something, but he just picks up a book that's, like, not completely... It doesn't have all the words in it, because she hasn't read all the words in the real world.
Well, that's when he starts to figure out that this is not an actual... Like, this is not, like, bits of Earth have been transported here. This is something that they created in their mind.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Although
I feel like we all could have figured that out.
We probably could, but these books were written for 9-year-olds.
True. Anyways, Fangor finds Lauren, and she's like thwacking some softballs in the field nearby, because we learned earlier she played softball. So, okay. Although it doesn't, we'll get to that in a second, actually. But anyways, Elfangor is like, oh yeah, that sucks that your mom's like that. She's like, it's not my mom. Like, yeah, I think it's a constructed world. We've all figured this out by now. He says we need to find the time matrix if we want to get out of here. They don't really know how to do that. And they do say, like, hey, Visser 3 will probably be there. And Lauren's like, oh yeah, let's fucking good. I want him to be there. It's like, oh, okay.
Well, they figure it out. They figure out that
Not yet. They don't. Not yet.
Oh my God, spoilers for 2 minutes from now. Anyways, they walk along the edge of the universe, which, to be fair, is a pretty smart play. Like, they walk along, they find, like, where it ends, essentially, and it's just
and
zero
Lauren
space.
tries to touch it, and her arm bends backwards towards her. Like, how fucked would that be to see?
It was pretty fucked up. I remember picturing that as, like, because it doesn't bend at the elbow, right? It just, like, bends wherever it's closest.
And it's just, like, gumpy.
Ugh. Anyways, she complains about not having food, and then she finds a McDonald's right away. So there's that. She goes in, and the guy behind the counter, who's a guy that she kind of recognizes, but not really, because his whole face is like a festering sore.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a bunch of pimples.
Yeah, and she recalls that, like, she used to only be able to see his pimples when she looked at him. Which is kind of, I want to talk about this more in the discussion, but, like, Brayden especially, I feel like you would appreciate just what a cool premise this is for like alternate worlds. Anyways, we'll talk about that in a second. So as she freaks out, she gets her food, and while she's leaving, Elfangor's like, oh, I noticed that the sky forms a pattern, and it's a hyper spiral, which just means spiral, I guess, because...
But it's like hyper.
A spiral.
It's a spiral that's eaten a lot of sugar.
It's a spiral on 3 dimensions. Or
4 dimensions?
Oh, actually, yeah, it is. It is in 4 dimensions.
Anyways. So he's like, look how the patches of sky kind of make a spiral. So I'm guessing that the center of the spiral will be where the time matrix is. Pretty fair guess, not like totally out of left field. So they basically start making their way towards where they think the center of the spiral is. Elfangor is like, guess what? It's probably going to be like some fucked up shit with time and space when we get closer, so just be aware of that. We also find out a really critical thing during this conversation, which is that because Lauren had always thought that her memory would be erased when she was returned to Earth. Now she finds out that without the Jahar, Alaran's ship, they can't actually do that. So if they warp or somehow get back to Earth or whatever, they just can't erase her memory, which is kind of foreshadowing, I think, maybe. But anyways, obviously they find the center. They, trek through all the worlds. They talk about Andalite scoops and how dumb and stupid it doesn't make any sense. But anyways, they go in the center of the spiral. There's like this hurricane, like time-space hurricane, I guess. Tornado. I don't know what a good word is. They go into the tornado. Hyper tornado.
It's a swirly storm.
Hyper spinners. Anyways, they get in and time starts going crazy. Space doesn't go crazy, just time. So I don't know really.
It's a time machine, not a space machine, Mikael.
But it is a space machine because they created an entire planet.
It's only called the time matrix, not the time and space matrix.
Okay. Anyways, so they go in and like all this crazy shit starts happening, like where Lauren was like 13. When they emerge into the eye of the tornado, she's like 18 or something, or like by the time that they're done in this area. I know. I've got thoughts on this, believe me. Anyways, some crazy shit starts happening. So obviously there's like her face starts getting older and Elfangor starts feeling older and stuff. But all the stuff that you would like trim off your body on an everyday basis starts going insane. And the craziest image I could ever picture from this entire series, I think, through all the body horror, is her nails growing super fast and then becoming like curled at the end because they're so long.
Doing that gross curly thing. And you have to assume her fingernails or her toenails are doing it too. Weren't her toenails like growing through her shoes?
Yeah, he says that her toenails were like busting through the ends of her shoes.
That's so gross.
So unpleasant. So visceral.
Yeah, it's fucking gross. And her hair is getting super long too, but that's not that crazy. Elfangor's hooves start getting longer, which is like, I guess, because horse hooves are worn down over time, like wild horses. They're worn down over time, right? From just like running.
They grow. They have to be like kept horses have to get their nails trimmed, their hooves trimmed.
But wild horses, it's just like from running on rocks and stuff. It wears them down, right? So presumably they either cut their toenails or whatever, hoof nails, or they wear them down from running on rocks. My guess is they cut them, which is just something that you'd never think would come up, but is also very gross to think about. Elfangor, like 4 feet taller than normal because he's on these nasty hooves.
He like starts stumbling because they're so much longer than he's used to.
It's really gross.
I don't think he'd be tall. I've seen horses, like I've seen pictures of abused horses and their hooves just get like really wide. Like they just get fatter and fatter like dinner plates. Instead of being nice and tucked up, they just kind of go flat and like crack and stuff. It's awful.
That's actually worse than what I was thinking.
Yep, no, it's horrifying.
Anyways, Elfangor slices his hooves off, and at one point he even slices Lauren's nails to help her.
Yeah, that was pretty dope. That's how you get a girl to want to have your bird babies.
Instant manicure.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously Visser 37 is there. Excuse me. Visser 3 is there, and he's got the Mortrons with him. And obviously he sends I think there's actually there's an interchange where Lauren's like, oh, he doesn't want to fight you one-on-one, Elfangor. He knows that you're faster and stronger than him. And I'm like, pretty dope play for someone who like any being in this circle could destroy you.
Yeah.
But anyways.
But as we already know, Lauren is a little bit like Rachel. Like she's got a firecracker in her and she will just like talk shit.
Totally. So the Mortrons attack first, so it's actually pretty good. It's hard to like get across just how good the fight is from like summarizing it. Some highlights were a bat part of the Mortron got like stuck in Lauren's hair, and she beat the bloody shit out of it with her bat that she brought.
Yep.
Or another part where she grabs, I think, the car part Mortron, and she stands there with her fingers like pointing inwards, and the fingernails actually grow into the Mortron.
Yeah. It's
crazy.
crazy.
My god, that's so good. There's a tail fight between the Visser and Elfangor. Pretty good tail fight, I would say. Hard to. I actually think that the tail fight at the very beginning of part 1 with Sophor is actually better because we get kind of a more internal monologue about it. This one is more like classic.
This one you can imagine, because it is with Visser 3, you could just imagine and picture him and Elfangor holding hands and just kind of like rocking back and forth like they do in the TV show.
Oh God, the TV show, don't bring that shit up. That's awful. This one was more like a blow, parry, a blow, parry, a blow, parry, riposte, a blow, and it lands, and it was like, all right, that's kind of like a sword fight. And I guess there's more important things going on, so we don't need to describe this, especially for what's coming up right after this part. Anyways, Lauren, so there's a critical moment in the fight where there's a bat Mortron coming for Elfangor's face at the same second that Visser 37's Tailblade is coming for Elfangor. And Elfangor's like, well, I can't win because I can't block both of them, and either one of these could kill me. So Lauren actually throws a Mortron. Or is it a Mortron? Yeah, she throws a Mortron at the incoming Mortron, which allows Elfangor to parry and riposte on the Visser's attack and actually slashes him up.
Just real good shit.
Yeah, and then actually like they win the fight, which I thought was kind of crazy considering the Mortrons, but sure, whatever. They got bludgeoning damage, so that works. The Visser like fucks off because he's a pussy, and that's what he does when he knows he's gonna lose.
He will like dip, live to fight another day.
I think Jerix and Larix also survive, and I'm looking forward to seeing them in the main series.
I mean, like it's incredible. They come in book 32. Oh my god, It pays off so well.
Are you joking right now? Because don't fuck with my emotions.
No, I know. I'm not joking. It's amazing when they come back.
Good. Okay. So Elfangor explains to Lauren, like, listen, we can't both fight over who's gonna control where we go with the time matrix now, and we're both aging insanely fast. This is no good. What you need to do, like, I can't go back to the Andalite homeworld because I'll be a pariah, which is also, like, probably not true, but I don't think he wanted to give the Andalites the time matrix either, so, because he had learned about the Q virus that Alaran did, so it was like, I don't trust my own people. Anyways, the solution they come up with is Lauren imagines the world like Earth, except everyone thinks she's supposed to be 18, which is the age she is roughly right now.
Which is like, what the fuck? I have a thing there.
They dropped themselves on Earth like an hour before they met or some such.
Yeah, it's something like, I can't remember what it exactly... It doesn't really make sense in that part, other than the fact that the time matrix like fixes everything. It's like they go back to Earth, and there's a massive ellipsis. Like there's no real description of them getting to Earth and sorting things out.
3 years later.
Yeah, there's an ellipsis at the beginning of a chapter that says 3 years later, and the next part is essentially like part 4. This unofficial part 4 of the Andalite
If it was
Chronicles.
part 4, it would have been more satisfying, but instead it's like the last 10 pages of the book.
Yeah.
Less than 10 pages. It's so jam-packed and crammed.
Anyways, now that Lauren's legal age and Elfangor is old enough that his penis is dropped, they just bone all the time. I'm assuming.
Just a hundo times a day. Like, the Elfangor is just like, my sense of taste was pretty good, but this tongue between my thighs is pretty nice too.
Gross.
Oh, man. And also, Andalites don't give blowjobs, obviously. Guess what, buddy? Humans do. That's the twist on that story.
Humans do. Good girls don't, but I do.
Ooh.
Gross. Oh, gross.
They get married, which is the kids' version of saying they finally hook up. Elfangor...
But they also love each other.
Yeah, of course. Sure, whatever. Elfangor... There's a lot of interspecies, like, fucking in these Chronicles books. Yeah, because humans are super down to bone any kind of alien. Do you think Andalites are, like, the ultimate progressive LGBTQ, like... They're just like, I don't even care what species you are, I'll morph into it and fuck you.
No, I doubt it, because they're like, women can't be warriors. They have to be scientists and artists.
True. That's pretty true. Anyways, Elfangor sort of like navigates the world by going to college. He gets a physics major, becomes a computer engineer. At one point, he very casually drops like, oh, what does he say? Like, I have many...
My friends Bill and Steve. I help them with their project.
Yeah.
with their projects, and it's like, oh, so this is supposed to be Bill Gates and Steve Jobs.
Which, like, I did not get when I was a kid.
Alarm bells were going off for location, right, Brayden?
Yeah, I get you. I'm picking up what you're putting down. We're dead in Silicon Valley, I'm guessing.
Can you imagine, Kate, this means when they update the Animorph story, Elfangor goes, when he gets to Earth and is a human banging Lauren, he is friends with Mr. Zuckerberg. That's probably it.
And Mr. Twitter. I think that was his name.
You know what? He's Justin Timberlake's role in the Facebook movie. He's like, you know what? Drop the. And that's the reason why Facebook is so big. It's because of Elfangor.
Apparently that movie is like rife with inaccuracies.
It was not a good movie. I did not like it.
It's not even actually about Zuckerberg. It was like an entirely different movie about like just the making of a social network.
Anyways, let's get back on track here. So I've got in my notes here, we can safely assume that Elfangor is plowing Lauren on the regular now that it's legal. So she goes off to her doctor one night, which we know is the OB because they like drop that pretty hard, that she's off to see about being pregnant. But Elfangor doesn't know, or should I say
pregnant.
Mr. Albert Fangor.
Yeah, that's his name.
Yeah, fucking stupid, but okay. Elfangor comes home and he's like, oh, there's a stranger in my house. It's the Elemist in a human body, Adjustment Bureau style, which is literally the premise of the Adjustment Bureau, the film. Anyways, the Elemist is like, listen, you fucked some shit up when you did that time matrix thing, my dude. You can't be doing stuff like that. And it kind of does make sense that it comes 3 years later, because she would have been sucked out. Actually, no, it doesn't make sense. I don't get that.
It doesn't make any sense. The Elemist is a fourth dimensional being. He could have gotten there like right away.
Yeah.
But he wanted Tobias to be born first.
That's essentially it. So, like, the Elemist tells Elfangor that, listen, the Yeerks are beating the Andalites pretty bad. They need you. If you think the Yeerks can't come to Earth, then you're fucked and you're wrong, because they totally will. He says that, I think he even mentions that Chapman's advice in part 2, that they go to Earth, is like actually hit home with somebody that actually mattered with. I can't remember if he says that or not.
Before the Elemist shows up, Elfangor talks about how Lauren ran into Chapman and was like, yo, what the fuck? He's still alive? And was also like, hey, how's your buddy Visser 37? And Chapman was confused. And so they assume that, oh, this is like a fake Chapman, or like a Chapman who somehow missed getting
Why didn't
abducted?
they just think it was a Yeerk? Like, that's totally possible.
It's also totally possible, yeah.
Anyways, so Elfangor is like super sad, and it's fair. And like, I'm brushing over this so I don't fucking like break out in tears, but as a kid, and this time, it was like pretty emotional.
This is super heartbreaking. He has to leave his family to go fight in a war, which we know as readers leads him to his death.
So Elfangor leaves, and then he's in a mist of time and space, bro, and he can like see how all the timelines intersect visually. He can see, and then he sees a third timeline come off of him and Lawrence, and then the Elemist is like, "That's correct."
It's so fucked up, Elemist.
Yeah, because he's like, now that you've made this decision, yeah, I don't have a problem with showing you that you have a son.
There's something about this that the war needed Elfangor, and the Elemist wasn't gonna like lie to him and not tell him like, hey, you have a son, or else we wouldn't have that moment where he had the back and forth with him when they finally did meet.
The only thing, Brayden, is that he didn't tell him he had a son until after Elfangor said, yeah, take me back. Elfangor thought he was just leaving Lauren. He did not know he was leaving Lauren pregnant to forget him.
Yeah, because he didn't. I mean, it's an Uatu the
That's
Watcher sort of deal. Like this Elemist has been playing the. This Elemist wants to help, but he is not allowed to. So he has been playing the game in a way that he can do both. Like, why did the Elemist wait till now to put Elfangor back. Because he wanted Elfangor to have a son. Because he wanted Tobias to exist. He could have just picked Elfangor up the moment he landed with the Time Matrix and done whatever. But he didn't. Tobias is important. Those 2 years that Elfangor was on Earth are important.
I'm just going to live off that high that Brayden said Tobias is important. I'm just going to enjoy that for a bit.
The book essentially wraps up after this. So Elfangor, like, blasts into space and in the middle of a fight where Visser 37 is there. Or now he's Visser 3, which we find out. It's like, oh, what a twist. If you didn't know, it's Visser 3. Which as a kid I didn't know, so it was actually a twist, but still pretty good. So he pulls off this, like, pretty insane suicidal maneuver, which I always thought was kind of dumb because, like, you were just told that you were going to, like, play a big role. So the first thing you do is, like, harakiri into this guy's fucking kamikaze.
Well,
it doesn't
maybe
make sense.
he knows that either this is the big role he had to do or the Elemist will save him, right?
I mean, he doesn't know shit, I feel, is, like, the theme of this whole thing.
Yeah,
anyways,
he doesn't know shit.
There's another, like, massive ellipsis where, presumably a 13-year ellipsis, where he becomes a war hero, and we don't get to see any of that.
None of it.
Yep. And then eventually there's, like, a big fight near Earth, like near Saturn or something like that. I think it's around Saturn or something. And he's like, oh, the only way to win this fight now is to go get the Time Matrix again, which is like, have you learned nothing, my dude? That is not going to help you. So he goes back to the construction site where we know from book number 1, this is basically where the intersection of Animorphs number 1 and the Andalite Chronicles is, where he meets the teens and sees his son, and it's emotional, but you already know the story, so you're kind of detached at this point.
Well, he doesn't go into great detail into it either. Like, when he recaps this bit in the book, he's like, you already know about all this.
I'm assuming that these guys are writing memoirs, and so I'm not going to write details about this.
You already know the Animorphs are writing their own books.
Right?
No details.
Anyhow, what do you guys think of this book?
I had 2 notes. Okay, so did Lauren completely destroy Earth and build a new one where she's suddenly 18? Or is this like an alternate reality thing? Or is the rest of Earth normal and the Elemist worked with the Time Matrix to mind zap all the people who knew Lauren into thinking that she was 18?
I guess
it's the second one.
We need to know a bit more about what Animorphs world time and space looks like.
Like, how powerful is the Time Matrix? Like, what did it do?
I guess it just hit the rewind button and then put in Lauren at a different time frame.
Yeah, if Lauren exists, then Lauren equals 18 years old.
Yeah.
The answer is the multiverse, right? So, like, the multiverse exists at all, like, infinite at all times. So if you had something that could help you navigate the multiverse, cough, cough, the Time Matrix, you could basically just pick the multiverse you want to go to.
Okay, that makes sense. My second point is that this girl goes from 13 to 18 in a jump, and that has got to do some shit to your mental health. Like, all of a sudden, she gets her first 72 periods on an alien planet that she invented. Like, that's how she knows she's getting older. That whole, like, oh, I'm getting older. I mean, and there's ellipsis. You know what? Never mind. Like, girl just got her first 5 periods all at once. That's what that ellipsis was.
When she's in the hurricane part?
When she's in the hurricane, when they're walking into the hurricane. And she says, I'm definitely feeling older. And there's, like, an awkward pause where it's like, I'm definitely feeling older, you know, like, and there's a bit of an awkward pause where, like, she doesn't explain anything. Like, that's her getting her period, y'all.
Okay, so let's do some quick math, right? Because let's say she grows...
I did the math. You did 12
How many periods
a year.
Per minute?
Oh my god, I didn't do that math. It's 72
Wow, so you
periods.
didn't do any good math then.
Well, it's 12 periods a year, approximately,
right,
for like 6 years. 12 to 18. That's 72 periods. She's like 12 or 13.
So let's say 6
I put 12. I put 6 years, so that's 72 periods. How long is she in this hurricane?
Let's
roughly
say 10 minutes.
10 minutes? 72 periods to 10 minutes is more than 7 periods a minute.
Holy.
Okay, so divided by 600, which would be 10 minutes. That's No, that's not right.
Like
I'm gonna have to figure this math out.
That's just over 1 period every 10 seconds.
Nice.
So,
like, Elfangor doesn't mention it because he doesn't know, like, he forgets that human blood isn't what the same color as Andalite blood. So he's just like, oh yeah, Lauren's pants just kind of got some red paint all over them for a hot second, like, really fast.
I did seconds. That's why. It's 0.12 periods per second.
Man.
Does anyone care? No.
0.12 periods. I can't even imagine.
That's 7.2 periods per second. Per minute. Sorry, per minute.
Which we already knew. But, like, these are the rough periods. These are the first ones in your life when your body is still, like, figuring how to drop an ovary.
I still remember my first period.
We're all assuming that Lauren is a cis girl at this point. I mean, she gets pregnant, so we assume she's got a uterus, which means that she's going to get some periods on an alien planet. And then she shows up on Earth, and she has to figure out as an 18-year-old what to do with her, like, menstrual cycle now. Her mom never gave her this talk because her mom thinks she already gave her the talk. I will pivot off of this and will say that Lauren totally rides Elfangor a couple times before they're even married, while they're still different species.
Wow.
Because he gives her a ride on his back. Horsey style.
Oh my god. Why do you gotta make it PG? I think that the first time they bone, it must have been like the weirdest thing. Because, like,
oh, for
he's
sure.
He's like, fuck me. Fuck me.
Okay, because Elfangor touched a whole bunch of pretty boys to turn himself into a boy. How did he get to touching these boys? He has to look like a blue dude.
Do you think that Lauren picked out the boys? She's like, oh,
what
I like
if
them.
Lauren picked out the boys?
I only date Asian guys or
I
something
want
like
all
that.
of my friends who look like this to come follow me into a closet for a hot second. Someone's gonna touch you on the arm.
They could have like low level shredder. That's my assumption.
I don't think he didn't have a shredder on him though.
He's a computer engineer. He could have made a shredder.
That's true.
Maybe just like Lauren went around and just pricked a bunch of pretty boys with a pin.
Oh, that's true. We don't need to have them there. We just need their blood. Would hair work, do you think, if it was like freshly plucked? Your DNA is in hair. It should work. Huh. They never talk about that in the book series.
Did we already talk about Jarix and Lyric?
We haven't talked enough about Jarix and Lyrics. The true OTP alert is Mikael and Jarix and Lyrics. OTP alert!
I just think it's like the dumbest fucking thing. Like, why not? If it's gonna be dumb, just lean into how fucking stupid it is. Like vampire cars that are regenerative.
And they're like, they don't have legs. They got wheels, just like fleshy wheels that roll on the ground. How does that work?
It reminds me of an article I read ages ago about a type of bug that had a spring inside of it, but it was like made out of muscle and tissue.
Yeah.
But it was shaped exactly like a spring, and it made it jump super high. And it was like, blew my mind that you could get something so mechanical into something biological. Right?
There's in the third His Dark Materials series book, they have a creature that uses wheels, and basically what it does is just like shoves a really long nail into this naturally occurring like coconut, but with a hole through it, and it like rolls itself around with its other legs.
That is fucked. A naturally occurring coconut.
Naturally occurring? I can't think of that. They only occur in the grocery store.
No, a coconut with a naturally occurring hole.
Elfangor and Lauren get married, and it totally does not feel earned. Like, I wish they had a whole other, like, part 4 to get into it. This whole ending is rushed, and like, we spent way too much, like, as great as it was to be on the Taxxon homeworld, like, we spent way too much time there to really like get into Elfangor and his whole bit. Like, we need this bit at the end. How do they fall in love? Where is my fan fiction?
I wonder because we've already talked before about how the main Animorph series was born out of format and not really content. Do you remember that?
Yeah, they made it as a young adult novel under 90 pages first.
And a serialized one.
Yeah.
So I wonder that they didn't pitch this as like, let's do a big one, a 3-parter. Do you know what I mean? And then at the end, like so many children writing signs, they shove in all the last little bit at the edge because they ran out of space. Do you know what I mean? But I feel like there's a lot of stuff that could have been cut earlier that just wasn't.
Yeah.
Like, why do we even need Chapman? Couldn't it just have been a Dork-Bajir? Like, would have done the same thing. Like, why not cut out half of the shit between Visser 37 and Elfangor? I don't know.
You know what would have been interesting is instead of Chapman, if it was a different alien that the Skritna had picked up.
That was on Earth?
That was just or on Earth, or they just like went to Earth and picked up her, and then maybe it was like a Valik or something.
Oh, snap.
That could have been cool.
Just really anything. Like, that could have served the same plot as a similar plot device without taking up so much space. I don't know. Also, I find that I didn't really care about the Taxxon. Like, I didn't care that much about Arbron. Did you guys?
Yeah, it seemed like he actually ended up getting it all together there near the end. Like, it seemed like he made it in a way that, like, we didn't really have time to care about him beyond his, like, I'm going to be the best there ever was at piloting. Then I guess he had very little to differentiate him from just, like, a nameless soldier. So it's like, I mean, things did turn out at least a little bit good for him as far as, like, Animorphs can go, I guess. Especially Animorphs Nothlets can go.
But maybe the problem is that, like, with the Dork-Bajir Chronicles, it was like we had just learned that some Dork-Bajir got free and there was hope for them. But in this one, it's like we already know that the Taxxons are doomed. And this happened decades ago. It's like we know that Arbron didn't succeed in any way.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that for the rest of the series, we don't hear about Arbron, the great Taxxon rebel, or anything like that. So it just makes it seem dumb and like pointless, and it took up a lot of space.
It did take up a lot of space, but it was, I mean, we haven't heard anything about the Taxxons yet, so I thought it was interesting and kind of needed to, like, it kind of humanizes the Taxxons in a weird way. Like, you get why they would, like, they're not just evil creatures, they're just so desperate. That's why they side with the Yeerks, because they're so desperate to feel anything other than this undying hunger. Like, they would give anything to get rid of this hunger.
It's like I guess it's not like enough of a draw for me. Like, I need something more than just like they're cursed by hunger. It's like, so is basically every prey and predator. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's fair. Which we do hear about a lot in the regular series as the kids morph into all these animals.
I'm curious to know what you guys think about the thing that people sort of shouted at us when we said we were going to do the Andalite Chronicles after book number 23 instead of book 15 or something, where we read the Dork-Bajir Chronicles instead.
Yeah.
We read the Dork-Bajir Chronicles after book number 13, actually.
13,
sorry.
yep.
And people were like, no, it's all wrong. It's out of order. But now that I'm reading it, I'm just like, I don't think I would read it in reverse order.
It's way better this way. Like, you do get the one spoiler in the Dork-Bajir Chronicles where you find out that Visser 3 has a twin, which you don't find out until book 16. But it's so much better this way because otherwise you get spoiled for the reveal that Elfangor is Tobias's dad.
Yeah, which is like the kind of the pull of this?
The whole pull.
The fact that Elfangor is Tobias's dad is honestly bigger than any other point in this entire thing in the series. Really, it's a bigger spoiler than anything we've run into so far.
Yeah,
and it's definitely a bigger spoiler for the series proper, or would have been a bigger spoiler if we didn't know already, than anything that happens in the Dork-Bajir Chronicles.
Well, and because people were like, oh, if you read the Dork-Bajir Chronicles early, you'll know that there's more free Dork-Bajir, but it's like, who cares?
Like, they literally never get mentioned until, like, book 23, which at that point, it's assumed you've already read Dork-Bajir Chronicles. Yeah. Like, they never go back to the Dork-Bajir Valley between books 13 and 23.
Yeah,
Like, they don't. So it's nothing that, it's nothing that was really spoiled. And maybe some people talked about, like, oh, you're going to get spoiled. But there's a lot more. I mean, this whole reading list that we're following through is something that I found recommended to new readers on the internet in, like, the majority of places when I looked for reading orders.
Oh, really? Oh, well, that's good then.
It recommended to have this one after book 23, so you get that maximum impact.
So, Brayden, we're almost done. We just finished the Andalite Chronicles. Give me your predictions for Animorphs number 24, which is what we'll be doing next week.
I actually took a cursory look at this one before, and I am pretty certain. I guess I'm never certain. I can't 100% predict these things, obviously.
What's on the cover first?
Well, first of all, it's a Cassie book. Cassie is kind of taking like an action stance, like something just happened. I have to morph quick, and she is morphing into an anteater.
Hell yeah, she is.
Okay, yeah, that's right. And the cover text is, what counts is on the inside most of the time.
I mean, but we know the cover text is almost always completely bullshit, right?
Yeah, also that could apply to literally any of these books.
Just beneath that, though, is Watch Animorphs on Nickelodeon TV. So I don't know if that was it was just recently released. I don't know if this is this the first one that it's going to be?
No, a lot of them have that, and they sort of retroactively put it on
on more
older
prints.
editions, so it's hard to say when exactly.
Okay, fair. And then the title is The Suspicion. I'm going to go with an old chestnut. I've actually been recently re-listening to I've been listening to a lot of podcasts at work lately, and I've listened to some of the show again. And an old prediction I had, I think about book 3, 4, maybe as early as 2, I predicted that they would have to wrestle with the idea of attacking or killing or taking hostage someone that got close to them that they suspected was a controller. Someone who saw something they shouldn't have, but that they didn't know whether or not they were a controller or Yeerked or maybe like Visor 3 and Morph. It's a book about a suspicion they have and wrestling with how is preemptively silencing this person in some way moral or not.
Damn, Brayden, you blow me away with how on top of your predictions are super accurate, like a startlingly large amount of time.
I think Brayden's good at like guessing themes, even though obviously the details are hard to guess.
No, he reads it's crazy because like book 24 is so action packed and like high stakes and intense. Man, I can't wait till we get into it.
I guess I get that Tessa is largely being sarcastic, but it's the old chestnut that I think I've only said it once on the show, but I like to say it a lot just in life when talking about books and media. Books are art, movies are art, music is art, writing is a science.
Ooh, I like that a lot. As someone who spent a lot of money getting a writing degree, hell yeah.
So now you're a resident scientist, and that's why you host Live from the Gardens.
Yeah, exactly. Anyways.
Next week, we'll be talking about book 24, The Suspicion. And then the following week, we'll be talking about some of the animals from that morph, or that the kids morphed from book 24.
You can find more of our stuff on this ransom note I'm writing to Tessa's parents if she ever takes my line again. But seriously, you can find more of our stuff on our website, collectivelegacy.org/phantomorphs. Or you can find us on Twitter. That's me. I run the Twitter. You can find us on Tumblr. That's Tessa the Line Stealer. You can find us on Instagram, which both me and Tessa run. Brayden is supposed to, but
I'm not good at it.
He hasn't recovered yet from when his fingers were blown off.
I just have the one finger now, and I can only really use it for Tinder, getting them sick BJs for shoplifting.
We're also on Facebook.
Yeah, and you can make sure, if you really enjoy what you've heard here, you can go ahead and...
Why? If you haven't, then you're wrong. This is a gift we give to the world every week.
If you really enjoyed what you listened to here and want to hear it every week, you can go ahead and hit the subscribe button on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts from, especially our distributor site, collectivelegacy.org, or wherever fine podcasts are distributed. I said that twice.
Yes, you did. You said it twice because it's just that nice.
For the Phantomorphs, my name is Mikael, the host.
My name is Tessa, the expert.
And I'm Brayden Tutu. I'm Brayden Tutu.
Oh, God. And this has been Phantomorphs, the Dork-Bajir Chronicles. Hey there, Dork-Bajir fans. It's Mikael here to thank our patrons of the $5 tier and higher. That's the Hork-Bajir tier and higher. I want to say a big thank you to a heap of games, Spencer and Anyanka. During the last little bit, they have given our podcast a decent amount of money and have been rewarded with pretty much what you'd expect to get from a high-quality podcast like ours. We've got a private Discord server. We've got monthly essays. There's one out already about Elfangor and how the theme of the hero plays out in the Animorph series. Bloopers. We got tons of bloopers if you guys want to check it out. There's even some public bloopers. You don't have to be a patron to see some of them. Just take a look at our Patreon page. It's patreon.com/Dork-Bajir. That's patreon.com/DORKBAJIR.
Are you tired of sitting in silence, staring at walls?
Do your ears yearn for something more than the sound of your life passing you by?
Try Inadmissible, a podcast designed by a leading team of experts in the field of excitementology and non-boringness.
On Inadmissible, you'll hear Quinn and Mikael, two of our bleeding-edge analysts, break down and rebuild the worst ads you've ever had the misfortune to experience.
Listen in as they tear apart lackluster emotional tactics.
Gather round as they explain why you shouldn't make your product look like a steaming pile of garbage.
Poop jokes.
All this and more on Inadmissible, a podcast about terrible advertising. For more details, visit collectivelegacy.org.
Inadmissible should not be consumed if you are easily offended or your tolerance for immaturity is lower than that of a 6-year-old child. Inadmissible may cause fits of laughter so intense your lungs may suffer from burst blood vessels. Consult your doctor before listening to Inadmissible.
Inadmissible, a podcast about terrible ads. Brought to you by
Collective Legacy,
a podcast network.